Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What is the biggest bullet you've dodged in life? Driving to my girlfriend's parents' place in Montana for Thanksgiving. Crossing a mountain pass in my 1984 Toyota Tercel. It was a beautiful, sunny winter day, but coming around a bend I hit an ice patch and immediately started sliding off the road. It was next to a cliff, with no guardrail, and it was a slow-motion freak-out. The car came to a stop just before going over. My girlfriend didn't even have room to get out on her side. We slowly and carefully slid out my side and both got out safely, but then our previous freakout turned quickly into some real concern about what the hell we were going to do next, and how we were going to get out of there in the middle of nowhere. And, it was cold. Not 2 minutes later a pickup truck with 2 guys in the cab and 3 in the bed came around the bend toward us. They pulled over in front of my car, and they all hopped out like a pit crew. One guy with a tow strap hooked it under the front axle, hooked it on the back of the truck, and they pulled my car off the cliff and back onto the shoulder of the highway. I thanked them profusely, and asked them what in the hell they were doing out in the middle of nowhere like this. One guy said that there wasn't much to do around here, and helping people on the highway was kind of a fun activity. The entire event took a total of about 10 minutes. Chaotic good. We should make chaotic good a trend. Maybe start a sub. Make the world a better place. Around 2019, we were struggling financially, and as a result, our gas was shut off. After months of struggling, we were finally able to get the bill down and have the gas turned back on. When the worker came out, he had to do a mandatory test for carbon monoxide. Turns out our furnace was absolutely leaking carbon monoxide and we had no idea. I can't help but think it's entirely possible that we could have died from carbon monoxide poisoning if we had not had our gas shut off in the first place. We got a new furnace and loaded up on carbon monoxide detectors. What was a huge misfortune of having our gas shut off due to not being able to afford the bill actually ended up saving our lives in the end. My buddy's furnace had a cracked heat exchanger and carbon monoxide was spilling out into his living space every time it ran. He and his wife were mostly fine except for headaches and fatigue. However, his kitty was all kinds of messed up, lost vision, would get confused and walk in circles. Coincidentally, they had their furnace serviced around the same time the kitty started exhibiting these problems, and the HVAC tech identified the cracked heat exchanger issue and informed my buddy and his wife that this condition with his furnace was causing CO to leak into his house, which explains the headaches and lethargy in him and his wife. The vet pieced together the details and explained that their kitty's behavior was likely due to CO poisoning. They immediately got their furnace replaced and they quickly noticed a positive shift in their kitty's behavior. It was nice to see the little critter bounce back like that. Moral of the story, check your HVAC equipment regularly and have CO and fire detectors installed. I was dating this girl for a while. I thought she was the one for me. Pretty, adventurous and fun. Then I discovered my at the time best friend and her was sleeping together for a few months. I was devastated. Went into a full spiral depression for about 4 months. When I came out of it I reached out to some friends who I had not talked to since. They chose the backstabber over me. My entire friend group abandoned me. I had no one. Then I hit up an old friend from a younger age who we drifted apart because of that friend group. We started hanging out again and he introduced me to some new people. Then a few years after that he introduced me to my now wife. Though at the time I was crushed by what they did, that best friend did me a huge favor and showed me that girl's true side. And now I'm happier than I have ever been. You didn't just dodge the shitty spouse bullet. You also were saved from spending one more moment of your life with all of those friends, aka a whole bunch of horrible assholes. Although I'm sure the mass exodus was very painful, I'm glad you were able to come out the other side in a far better position. And props to you for stopping those as swipes in their tracks, and for refusing to allow them to continue treating you like shit. It takes a strong person to stand the ground like that. Just wish I had listened to the one friend earlier. He warned me they were bad news. And I wrote him off. Turned out he was the real ride and die friend. Toxic exes are often the biggest bullets people dodge. When I used to look them up online, expecting to be disappointed that I had missed out, it was mostly, WTF. Thank God I didn't marry into that crazy, e.g. my 23 ex married a weird 46-year-old dude. I just started laughing at that. This was what I was upset over. Question mark. Was driving home with my then girlfriend down a normal road. We decided to go out for food and stopped at Applebee's. Food took for fucking ever. It was like 45 to 50 minutes between ordering and getting the food. We finished, paid and left kind of miffed. Continued driving home and the street lights were out at some point and a detour. Turns out a tornado ripped through that road just ahead of us. Probably would have been on the road if our food hadn't taken so long. My uncle had a random delay resulted in missing a Twister story. My uncle was a trucker and he was at a truck stop gassing up and getting some food before continuing on his route. Anyways, as he's walking to the truck, this red heeler dog comes out of nowhere and he starts talking to it. Then after a bit he's petting it. The dog is a young one and is just happy to have attention. My uncle, knowing there isn't anything in the area, keeps an eye out to see if someone is going to come claim the dog. So he keeps playing for a while and decides, FK it, you're a trucker dog now. He opens the passenger side of his Peterbilt and the dog hops up like he was supposed to be there. As my uncle rounds the truck, the pupper lies down in the sleeper cab and falls asleep on the bed. So my uncle starts heading down his route again, and about an hour away the town he was about to drive through has completely ripped apart. Some high-category tornado just completely annihilated the town. So he says the dog saved his life and immediately adopts him and calls him Twister. Twister lived for 19 years longer after that meeting. FKN loved that dog. Absolute heart of gold. The one I forgot to cock before I pulled the trigger. It was pretty low point in my life. I was very drunk. Things have turned around for me, thankfully. Edit, thanks everyone. I appreciate the love and care. This is why many suiciding prevention programs focus on simply delaying, interrupting a person's attempt. Just that interruption in their flow of thoughts and actions is enough. The vast majority of people who attempt or begin an attempt once don't repeat. I am happy you are still here to write this, my friend. I was jogging on a path in the woods and an enormous tree limb fell, crashing on the path 10 feet behind me. If I was just a second or two slower, it would have been gruesome. Yeah, that is crazy lucky. The reverse happened to a car driving down the road in front of my house as a kid, killed the driver instantly. Just crazy to think if he'd been even 1 second earlier or later would be alive. Life is wild. It wasn't even windy out or anything. And then we get people like Greg Abbott. Me and my friends were bar hopping in Orlando on the night of the Pulse nightclub shooting. We almost went there, too, but decided it was getting late and called it a night. We were all silent the whole next day after we heard the news, all of us extremely sobered by the fact that we literally dodged a bullet. I worked next door. They'd use our parking lot for the cars and we'd use theirs because our hours were opposite. We'd see each other and say good morning, good night and sweet dreams when I'd be going into work. I desperately needed a career change in my late 30s and was originally going to go into nursing. For one reason or another I decided against that and ended up getting a degree in IT. A few years later the pandemic hit, and instead of having to work in healthcare during that shit show, I got to start working from home and received a sizable raise. Travel nursing at that time was also quite lucrative though. My buddy was at the right time to get into travel nursing. The pandemic hit when he had enough experience under his belt as a new grad. Homeboy hustled those contracts. All said and done, he took in something like $250,000 after taxes as he had all his expenses covered while on assignment. He's now in a crazy strong union, and with the bedside shortage, there's endless OT to pick up when he wants to buy a new toy. My mom cleared almost $200K per year doing travel during the pandemic. One contract took her to NY and she made almost $90K just on that one with all the bonuses they gave them, lol. Not even travel nursing. I stayed at my local hospital throughout COVID. Working conditions were abysmal, but anything past your scheduled hours, I was making $80 an hour just because they needed the bodies, and travel nurses cost more than just paying out OT with incentives attached. Newly pregnant me yelled at my husband to stop hitting his snooze alarm and just cancel the 8:30 a.m. meeting he had. It was the 9th of November 01, and his meeting was to take place on the plaza of the World Trade Center. Damn, he worked in finance. Are you all still in NYC? I hope your family is healthy and well. Less than 3. Thank you for your kindness, pink heart. My husband isn't in finance, we're both at different ends of the entertainment industry, and the meeting he bailed on concerned a music festival that was being held on the plaza. I actually worked in Midtown and went in after the first plane hit. By the time I exited the subway, the second plane had hit and the whole system went down. It's a day I'll never forget. I cry every year during the memorial. Since I was pregnant, husband insisted we move slightly north of the city afterwards, which is where we've been ever since. I met a very handsome young man at a community college I was attending. We had a couple of classes together and ended up exchanging numbers. We chatted a few times on the phone and I remember him asking to take me out. I was flattered, and although he was very charming and seemed nice enough, I remember just giving him the, "Oh sorry, I'm busy," lines. He stopped pursuing me and all communication ceased. About 6 months later, boom, he was all over the news for raping and murdering a young woman. That arrest led the authorities to tie him to another unsolved murder that was done in the exact same fashion. Authorities even said he apparently had a certain type that he preyed on, as they stated the 2 women he raped and killed were the exact same body type. I remember being stunned and telling my parents, I still have his number in my phone. I could have easily been another one of his victims. I thank God for shielding me from him. He's currently on death row. Whoa, what made you say no? It sounded like you were kinda into him. I definitely was into him. We flirted and hung out on the school campus between classes together often. The more we talked, the more I began to realize how arrogant he was. It's one thing to have confidence, but he would say things like, "I'm not an ugly guy. I honestly can have any woman that I want, but I don't want them. I want you, IDK." It was the way he always reminded me how desired he was by women that just turned me off. I wanna know this too. Did you just have a gut feeling? I had a similar experience with a boyfriend while in my 20s. He was a dopey funny guy, but very sweet. At some point he started acting weird, asking me for money to pay his bar tabs, started selling Adderall as a side hustle, and became really jealous when I would hang out with male coworkers. I broke up with him, and he did not take it well, kept calling me and all that. A few years later I found out he went to jail for raping a woman. It was unsettling to say the least.